Hi everyone, welcome again. Today is 1/1/2025, January 11th. So as usual, we start off with the Ripple session, and then Solana, Ethereum, and Bitcoin sessions will follow immediately afterwards. And before we get to the details, last week we talked about the flag pattern. So it evolved from a downward wedge to a flag pattern, and it does break out like we talked about last week. Like this flag is a bullish sign, and it does broke out from the upper boundary. So what's next? Let's find out. Before that, disclaimer: this is for education and research purpose only and not financial advice. Please always consult your local licensed professionals. Okay, so this graph, daily chart, very familiar, everybody. The purple lines and the orange line it was drawn 3 weeks ago, and finally it broke out. So what's next then? Let's draw a line over here, because this may be a support line later. We saw 4 candles all having a stop right over here. So it's either begin or close, but it's pretty flat, and it's quite indicative in such a sense. And if this go up, usually when a price breaks out from a flag pattern, it doesn't shoot all the way up in one go, right? It may seek a support level, so it may come back down and find a support. So in order to find that support, I would look at this level with these 3 candles peaking right over there. So it's roughly about $2.42, I would say, if it comes down, trying to find a support before it go further up. It doesn't always happen like this, but this can be a good reference. And if it returns from the flag pattern, then obviously it would try to bounce within the purple zone first, or at least, let me extend this further. So it would probably try to stay on top of this upper boundary before it returns to this purple zone, or go further down, depending on how bad the news, whatever that news is. And let me take away these guys. And in terms of the bigger picture, let's go to the Wyckoff pattern, and here's the weekly chart. So let's move the second test a bit higher. It was there since last week, I haven't touched it. So we talked about the automatic response from the buying climax, and according to Wyckoff, there should be some second test to see the demand of the public or the market before it goes either up or down. So if there are a lot of demand, and it would shoot up above the climax. Yeah, Ericsson, sure, that's very exciting this week. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so this bullish action may go further up, and in terms of Wyckoff terminology, if it shoots higher than the buying climax, it's an up thrust. If not, then it's a second test, and it can happen multiple times. So that's where we are in terms of Wyckoff pattern and the weekly charts. One more thing that's important is the volume. So when we look at these bars, even though they are declining, and if we look at the bars in the past few weeks, it's way lower, and it's also declining as well. So there are multiple ways to explain this. One, some people will say, oh, it's especially these 3 weeks, people are waiting for some news or signals before they take some large action, or if this is really a testing zone that the big players are, or the market manipulators are trying to test the public demand, they would release a little bit of stocks on their hand, and then the public would FOMO in and then push the price up further, even though the volume is low. So compared to the last cycle, I briefly talked about this before, it happened really quickly. Within 1 week it shot up, there was an upthrust, and then immediately afterwards it came down consecutively all the way to almost at the bottom, or actually touching the bottom of the buying climax. This time it looks a little bit better. We had 4 weeks to build up the buying climax, and then we came down for the automatic response in 3 weeks. Last time it was only 1 week, and this time the second test lasted for 2 weeks already. There's still 1 day and 2 hours left for this week, so we'll see how it happens for Ripple. So if this continues, there are two scenarios, I would say, according to the Wyckoff distribution pattern. If there are sufficient demand and people would like to stay playing with Ripple longer, there's no bad news assuming. So there could be a zone right here. So we have these upper bound and lower bound here. So roughly about $2.01 and $2.55. So if people would like to stay a bit longer here, there's no bad news. It can be a range bound here for a little longer. If not, similar to last time, after a second test, or sorry about that, let's remove the line. Yep. So if similar to last time, there's no more demand and it quickly comes back down, then there wouldn't be that much of activity. There may be a pause over here with this support, because there were 2 weeks we built this up before it returns probably to where the PSY was. That's around $1.40. Before it returns to the long-term playground zone, the white area. So that's for Ripple. In terms of monthly chart, we already talked about it right at the beginning of this month. So there's still around 20 days before we'll touch this again. That's all for Ripple. See you in the Solana.